I went to the movies, right? Not long ago, last week I think it was, right? And the ticket price, a lot, man, a lot, you know. And uh, I offered to pay by check, right? When I was buying the ticket, right? I said to the lady, she said, "Would that be cash or card?" So, yeah, right? Ooh, so, hee. Oh, well, sir, I said, would like to pay by check if that would not be too much trouble. Darling, right? I said that back, right? trying to, play along, right? Get into the spirit of the moment, right? You know what they call like play acting, right? With the complete, stranger at the ticket counter, right? And the ticket lady, right? She go, well, sir, unfortunately we don't accept checks, right? And I said, there's gonna be a problem, but I spoke that okay, because my checkbook, has had a lot of checks written lately, I donated, $1 million to, an orphanage in, the far corners of the globe. I said, right? Anyway, and $1 million to another charity. But today, I thought, this is how I'm saying, right? The woman, right? I said today, I thought I'd just mosey on down to the cinema to catch a flick. Hey? Why not, I said. Anyway, right? Play along, right? I thought, play along. Right? And then I see the woman staring at me. She goes, the movie start 5 minutes. You got to pay, you want to go in the cinema, right? She said. And she said, right, she go, hey, so basically, let me recap for you, right? She said, and I said, okay, recap away, right? And she go, cash or card? The question was not difficult, right? And I'm going, oh shit, impatient lady, this one, funny for someone that, sitting behind the counter, all day long, to get impatient, with the ticket selling process, right? Anyway, anyway. And the people that buy the tickets, right? It ain't, anyway. No, I say, okay, I get it. I said the fucking check probably would have bounced anyway, I cashed too many of them lately, right? The bank can't keep up with my spending and all. So probably better if I just, pay by cash, I would say, today. Okay? Let's do that, I said. Let's do that. Okay. Anyway, she wait. Right? I said, what are you waiting for? What are you looking, sitting there? What are you waiting for? Right? And she go, I'm waiting for the cash, you stupid asshole. You want to go and see this movie, you got 3 minutes to start. Guess you want to miss the opening credits, right? You better hurry up and get your wallet out and put your cash on the counter, and I'll give you a ticket. You can go to the cinema and watch the credits and then the movie, right? What do you think about that, process happening soon, okay? And I say to the ticket lady, I say, hey, you in a hurry, right? You got somewhere else you got to be, lady? Hey, it's not like there's a long line of people behind me, is there, right? And I look around, I point at the empty fucking lobby of the cinema, right? There's no one there except one guy at the fucking candy bar. Some guy that's just stuck it up for himself, right? And, he's going solo into the fucking cinema, right? And he's buying like popcorn, 3 chalk tops, a massive fucking jumbo soft drink, And I say, hey, apart from me and the fat shit at the counter, the candy bar, right? There ain't no one here, lady. Just me. It's just me. Right? Anyway, she hold her hand out. She goes, where your money? Eh? Where your money? You want to see the movie? You got like 1 minute now. You've been just jabbering on and on and on, telling me about like donating to charity and shit. You know, your $1 million here, your $1 million there. You know, throwing your fucking fortune around like fucking confetti, right? Right? Okay, where your fucking money for the movie? And I say, right, okay, here we go. So I reach into my pocket and I take out some notes, right? And you know, they're like little notes. And I say, how much? Right? She tell me, right? It's like, I don't know, man, like $20 or something, right? And I say, well, you having a discount this week? You know, but that's okay. Better for me, huh? Yeah, glad I came on discount day, right? Wish it was this day every day, right? Yeah, right, okay. Right, and I hand over like, you know, $20, you know, in like little dollar bills and shit. You know, a few coins and shit, you know. And I say, yeah, I hope you can count, lady. A lot of bits and pieces there for you to add up, right? Should come to 20 even, if I'm not mistaken, right? Right? And I wait while she count, right? Come to 1960, right? Anyway, she look at me and she goes, you're 40 cents short. I say, well, can you give me an extra discount on discount day? And she said, why should I do that? Why? You be nothing but trouble, right? And I say, what if I flash a nice smile your way? Will you chuck me a little bonus for that, right? And I'll, you know, go and see the movie, right? Let's just knock that 40 cents off the ticket price. Come on. Come on. Do me a favor, lady. Times are tough, you know? Hey. Right? Right? And she go, I don't care, man. Get the 40 cents out of your fucking pocket. I heard you fucking change dingling in your pocket, man. Get the shit out. Put it on the counter. I'll give you the fucking movie ticket. Otherwise, you can take your 1960 and fuck off. And I say, okay, lady, you win. You win the argument. Not that it was much of an argument, but anyway, you know, you ain't Plato, lady. Hey, right? Yeah. You didn't create democracy and all that shit, right? You ain't Greek. Anyway, right? She don't get it. Right? She just hold a hand out, right? Anyway, I said, here you go. I reach in my pocket, I take out 40 cents, put on the counter, you know, next to her hand, right? Just, you know, trying to be a little bit difficult because of the attitude and shit. Anyway, she take the money off the counter, she give me my ticket. Right? She go, there you go, sir. And I say, thank you, darling. Anyway, right? Take the ticket. I say, hey, by the way, what's the movie I'm going to see? And she's, you know, she goes, what? You don't know what the movie about you going to see? And I say, nah, I kind of like just picked it randomly, you know? Yeah, right. Yeah, tell me what it about. What's the name of it anyway, right? And she go, you look at the poster on the wall, right? Behind you, look. Look what it said. Look behind you. And I look, okay, I look. Right? I turn around, look at the poster, right? And it said, you know, and we didn't know the language, right? I knew it was like French or some shit. And it said like le mauvais fromage et de retour, right? I said, what the fuck that say, lady? And she translated it right. She go, it means the bad cheese is back, right? And I say, oh yeah, oh whoa, what that about? Yeah, that sound cool. And she go, yeah, it's just very, very popular film, this one, right? Very popular, right? And I say, yeah, well, evidently by the looks of this lobby of the cinema and all the people rushing in to see it, right? Yeah, I say number one on the fucking film list of today, lady. I wonder if the fat dude at the candy bar is going to see it as well, right? You know, and I look around, the fat guy still, you know, he's got all the shit under his arm, right? And he's trying to hold the rest of it in his other hand, right? And I look across at him and I say, hey, you feeding the family of 10, man? And the man laughed, right? And then he throw a chalk talk at me, right? Straight in my head, right? He go, hey, you can have this one for free, you dumb motherfucker. Hey, right? And the chalk talk missed me, splat on the you know, the ticket, you know, partition, right? And the ticket lady, she goes, oh, motherfucker, right? She goes, you know, she get up, right? She goes, now I gotta clean this fucking shit off the fucking partition, right? And I can see, right, she looking at the evil, you know, she looking evil at the fat dude, right, with all this shit from the candy bar, right? And I know she want to chuck him out the door, right? Because he's just like, you're not behaving well. I can see that she's thinking that, right? She's going like evil in her eyes, right? You're going like, I'm gonna fuck that dude up, right? The fat asshole with his fucking Chuck Top collection and his fucking, super big coke and shit, right? Oh, and you get that motherfucker. You ever take one of the Chuck Tops, jam it down his fucking throat, right? You can digest it whole, right? Well, that's what I imagine anyway, right? That she was thinking, right? She get the cloth out and she wipe all the fucking ice cream and Chuck Top and the little cherry off the fucking partition, right? Right? And I say, hey, lady, you were talking to me. Stop cleaning up the other dude's mess, right? What the fucking film about, right? And she go, which film? Which film you talking about, right? Can't you see I'm busy? I served you already. Move along. Go into the movie and enjoy it, right? And I said, did the movie have subtitles, right? And she go, I don't know. I suppose it does if it's in French. And I said, well, what do you not know for sure? Aren't you knowledgeable in the movies that are showing in the cinema? I thought you worked here, right? And she's like, I don't know, man. Go and find out for yourself, right? Go take a seat, right? Go watch Le Mauvais Fromage et de Retour. You come out, you can tell me what it's all about, right? Anyway, I say, okay. I'll leave you to clean up the ice cream mess, okay? And you can scold the big fat dude for throwing it, right? Stop taking all your shit out on me, alright, lady? Anyway, so I look around, right? And I look at the poster again, right? Le Mauvais Fromage et de Retour, right? And like he said, the matinee performance, right? Starting soon, right? And I'm looking at my watch, it's like, 5 minutes to 11 a.m., right? And like, well, I better go in there and get the opening credits, The movie will be starting very soon, right? But I decide, right, I wander over to the poster first, right? And look at it, right? And there's a big picture, right, underneath, like, the title, Le Mauvais Fromage et de Retour, right? Anyway, right, it's a big piece of cheese with legs and arms, right? And it's got this really fucked up face, right? It's like this deranged look on its face. It's got like eyes and shit, right? And like, I go, what the fuck, right? And I look at the little caption, right, under the title, right? A little blurb, right? Give you the idea what the whole thing is supposed to be about, right? Right? And the caption, it said, right? It goes, no one messes with the cheese, right? Anyway, the bad cheese, right? Obviously the horror, character in this film, right? Whatever the fuck it is, right? And I go into the cinema after that, right? I want to see this bad cheese in action, right? Okay, I'm thinking, right? So I take my seat, right? And the credits start, right? And then the film begin, right? And like the last credit, right, is the director, right? And it's like Benjamin Monet, is the director's name. I think, oh yeah, like the painter, right? Yeah, man. I don't know if the true Monet painted cheese and shit, but Benjamin Monet, maybe a descendant right down the ages of, the true Monet, right? And he's still painting, right? He's just got no subject matter left, to work with, right? So he's going for the bad cheese, right? Yeah, anyway, maybe true, I don't know. Yeah, right? Anyway, and then I find I said, and the bad cheese on the screen, right? It said the bad cheese, voice provided by César Levesque, right? And I don't know who César Levesque is, right? So I get my phone out and I look him up, right? And he's this really famous French dude, right? This French actor, right? And he's appeared in all these cool French movies and shit for decades, right? And the film begin, right? And there is woman, right? And she in the kitchen, right? And she making an omelet, right? She's making an omelet. and a man walk in, right? And you go, right? And I know what he's saying, right? Because luckily the film had subtitles, right? Anyway, and the man, he go, faites-vous un omelette? Right? And she go, oui. And the man nod, right? And she said, voulez-vous un omelette? Right? She said that, right? And which means like, would you like an omelette? Right? And he nod and he go, oui, oui. Ce serait bien, he says, right? And I'm like digging this French shit, right? Get the accent so cool, right? Nothing's happening on the screen, right? It's just, wasn't like a huge attention grabbing moment, compared to some films, right? There wasn't like shit blowing up everywhere and like bridges falling down and buildings going sideways and shit and like planes and fucking everything happening all at once and shit on the screen, right? And guns going off and all this shit, right? Plenty of that shit to see, right? But I'm like quite taken by the serenity and the calmness of the beginning of the film, right? This nice little, decorated, room in, well, I presume it was in France, right? The decor very nice, right? Very rustic feel to the room, right? And, they're talking about an omelette, right? Right? And then the man, he go, avons-nous du fromage? And, and the subtitle tell me, right? Subtitle tell me, he said, do we have any cheese? Right? And the woman nods and she goes, le fromage est dans le frigo. Right? Right? And it's like, it's in the fridge. Right? And I'm like, oh shit, they got cheese, right? They got cheese. He's giving me a good omelet, right? And I'm trying to figure out where the fuck the film's going, right? In the opening scene. Like, I'm not getting the plot quite yet, but I'm waiting, right? I know some shit's gonna go down, something's gonna happen, right? The shit's gonna get really interesting soon, right? Yeah, I never seen a French film before, but I expect that. I was anticipating the next scene, the next bit, right? Right? Anyway, the man go to the fridge. He opened the door of le frigo, right? He opened the fucking door of the fridge. Anyway, right? He opened the door. And he screamed, right? Suddenly scream. You gotta scream like that, right? Scream, right? Big cheese jump out, right? Right? A big motherfucking monster block of cheese, and the cheese just strangle him, right there, right? Strangle him, and then pull out like a a fondue stick, right, from the counter, right, and just stab the shit out of the man, right? Anyway, then the woman screamed, right? She screamed, right? And the cheese go after her, right? And it's like, she's screaming, oh shit, it's the bad cheese, and all this shit, right? All in French, right? And she's screaming and she's running around like a crazy bitch, right? Anyway, the cheese get up, right? The cheese fucking get up, right? And kill her too, right? I mean, this is one bad block of cheese, man. But it's cool, right? Cool, yeah. Like it's not. I've never seen the cheese kill anyone before. Anyway, I watched the rest of the film. Right, great beginning. I thought, great beginning. Who knew making an omelet would be so bad? Such bad consequences of making an omelet, right? On a nice, rustic, house in some nice part of France, right? All go bad, because the cheese, right? Anyway, the rest of it, like the inspector, right? He come to the house to investigate, right? And a lot of the movie, right, was just about him asking questions of people and trying to figure out how the people die, right? Right? And you look at all the evidence, right, in the kitchen, the rustic kitchen, right? And he find the ingredients of the omelette, right? And he goes, I think they were making an omelette, and there's other policemen in the room with him, and he go, do you think it was a cheese omelette? Right? And they investigate some more, right? And eventually, they put it all together, right? And they find out at the end that the block of cheese, right, is the killer, right? The bad cheese, right? Right? And all this unfold, right, over like 2 hours, right? And the cheese, where the bad cheese is gone, right? This shit. right? Never appear again until the end, right? And the confrontation between the inspector and the bad cheese. And the inspector said to the bad cheese, "Why'd you do it? What made you do it? What were your motive?" Right? What you know what the cheese said? The bad cheese, right? You go, right? The cheese go, the bad cheese, right? Go, la dernière fois, ils ont essayé de me faire fondre. Plus jamais ça. Le souvenir me hante encore. Right? Look at the subtitle, right? It's like, last time they tried to melt me, never again. The memory still rages inside me, right? And then the cheese tried to kill the inspector, right? And the inspector, like, you know, pull out his, like, gun and shit and, like, blow holes through it, right? He goes, "Hey, you look like a Swiss cheese now, man. You're full of holes," right? And the bad cheese get enraged even more, right? He goes, "I'm not a Swiss cheese," right? And the inspector said, "What are you?" Right? You know, but he's like, "Qu'est-ce que tu es?" Right? And it's bad cheese, right? Bad cheese get angry and shit. And the bad cheese repeat, right? He goes, "Je ne suis pas un Gruyère." Right? It's me, I'm not a Swiss cheese. I'm not Gruyère. Right? That's what he said, right? Bad cheese, bad shit going on. And the inspector repeat, he goes, "What are you?" Right? The cheese, you go, "Je suis Boursin," right? And I you know, Boursin, right? It's like the soft spreadable cow's milk cheese, right? And I think, oh man, that bad fucking, you know, cow cheese, right? Fuck, what a motherfucker, right? And then, right, the inspector, like, you know, he pull out this, like, you know, he grabbed this, like, you know, knife and shit and try and cut the cheese in half and shit. And they're wrestling and struggling and shit. The bad cheese trying to kill the inspector, right? And then what happened, right? The best shit yet to come, right? And I couldn't believe what fucking happened, man. Right? The other policeman ran in, right? And he carrying a flamethrower, right? For some bizarre reason that I couldn't explain, right? At the time or since, right? Why would he have a flamethrower, I thought? But it doesn't matter, right? You know, at the time I was so caught up in the moment, right? That, you know, it didn't occur to me, like, you know, he had a big flamethrower for some, I don't know, I couldn't explain it. It was just weird. Anyway, you know, the inspector is there wrestling with the bad cheese, right? And the other officer, he go, you know, he yell out, the inspector, he goes, "Écartez-vous! Il est temps de brûler ce mauvais fromage!" Right? And the inspector, he roll out of the way, right? He release his grip on the bad cheese, and he roll out of the way, right? And the police officer, right? He with the flamethrower, right? He look at the bad cheese, right? You know, the Boursin, right? Right? And he go, "Ton heure est venue, mauvais fromage. Il est temps de mourir," right? Which means like your time's up, bad cheese, time to die, right? And he flick his finger on the trigger of the flamethrower, right? And the fucking bitch flamethrower, right? Burned the fucking cheese, you know, to like melted fucking goo, right? And it all happened real quick, right? And the bad cheese like screaming and well, it's melting and dying and shit. And then, you know, the police officer show no mercy, right? Even when the cheese, you know, the bad cheese melted, right? He just aimed the flamethrower at it on the ground. He just hold his finger on the trigger, right, until the shit just like, you know, blackens and, you know, cooks and shit, right? You know, turns into like this black fucking crust on the ground, right? And then he pull his finger off the trigger, right? Right? And he go, you know, he look at the inspector and he go, "Inspecteur, le mauvais fromage est mort. C'est l'heure de fêter ça. Du vin, inspecteur, du vin." And right, the inspector on the ground, right, he buggered, right? He's so tired and fucking, you know, he's been wrestling this bad cheese and he's all fucked up and shit and he's lying there, right? But he pulled himself together, right? He sit up and he nod and he go, "Un peu de vin maintenant, c'est une excellente idée." And they leave, right? What he said was like, "Some wine now is a fine idea," right? And I love it, right? And the credit roll, right? And, they leave. And the camera just like, moves slowly towards the black, burnt cheese crust on the ground, right? And then it fade out, right? And it's great, right? Great. And I think, yeah, the bad cheese got it in the end, right? Yeah. Worth every penny, that film. Right? Anyway, so I leave the cinema, right? And as I walk out, right, I see the fat dude, right, I saw at the candy bar, right? You walk out of another cinema at the same time, right? I say, hey, man, have you seen the Bad Cheese yet? It's a fucking great movie, man. You gotta check that shit out, man. And he said, I ain't seen the Bad Cheese yet. On my list, though. Right? And I said, what'd you see, man? And he goes, I saw Beetle Buffet, right? And I said, what that about? He says, it's like these beetles overrun, like, this whole town, right? And they just, like, eat everyone, right? He said, real cool, right? Anyway, so I walk out of the cinema, right? And I go to the lobby, which is still empty, right? And I see the ticket attendant, right? And I say, hey, that was a great movie. And she goes, she nods, and she smiles. She goes, yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I knew it was a good film, that one. And she said, by the way, do they have subtitles? And I said, yep, sure did. Great. I understood everything. Right? It was a great film. The Bad Cheese. Don't make no omelet tonight, that's for sure. I won't. Hey. Anyway, just in case I said, right? Anyway, right, I'm walking out, right? And I turn around, I think of something, right? I turn around and say, the movie would have been better, right? If it were 40 cents cheaper, right? And I laugh and run off, right? And just as I run out the door, right? This truck top, gets launched from somewhere behind me, right? And it splattered on the window next to me as I run out the door, right? And I turn around and say, yeah, great fucking aim you got. No wonder you're selling fucking tickets, not playing for the fucking New York Yankees, bitch. Anyway, and I run off. Anyway, I get home, right, and open the fridge, right, to make something to eat, right? And I open it up and I see this block of like cheddar cheese, right, just sitting there, right, and it's gone green and shit, And I think, oh shit, now that thing in my fridge, now that a really bad cheese, right? Yep. And I think, I could scrape the green shit off. Maybe it'd be okay. But I decided not to risk it, right? Just in case, the cheese come to life and all take offense, right? So I just chuck it in the bin,